can't tell me what to do. None of y'all. Today I'm going to do and say what the hell I want. Look at me. Look at where I am. Victor loosed a wad of spit onto the floor. I don't want to hear about some good old days or about some damn manufactured future. I'm an honor student in high school. I'm in the top 50% of my class. I'm on the track team, in drama, on the newspaper. I have a job after school and I've been accepted to 3 different colleges. I'm all this for what? For what? To be sitting handcuffed in this holding cell, doing my part for the greater society? Hell no. I'm sitting here because of the rottenest fruit on our family tree. Victor accented his rage by stomping the floor in cadence with his words. I'm not supposed to be here. Exhausted, Victor pushed himself back against the bench, knocking his head against the wall, chest heaving, eyes tearing and sweating. His head hurt, but not as much as his heart. Well, good morning. Guy Sims, as you heard, I think I need to shorten that introduction. I'm glad to be here. I just wanted to start with an excerpt from a short story, published short story called The Rottenest Fruit. Tale of a dystopian society, as everyone's doing dystopian society, but I think I did this long before people started really talking about it. It was my take on crime in society and who has responsibility. And in this society, after a person is convicted, it's the family, somebody from the family has to suffer the consequences. And they gather 5 members of the family, and by lottery, one person is chosen to suffer the consequences so that the perpetrator can see what they've done. So that was just one of those stories. But I wanted to just now introduce myself. You heard a lot of stuff. It's funny that this is called Appalachian Voices, because I don't think I'm from Appalachia, but I've lived here for 10 years in Southwest Virginia, so I guess I get a card somewhat for being down here. In fact, it took me a couple of years to say the word Appalachia, because from Philadelphia we were taught to say Appalachian. And when I got here, the guy who set up our power, he kept correcting us. Both my wife and I, she's from Jersey. And we were like, is this Appalachian Power? Appalachian Power. Okay, whatever it is, keep the lights on. That's all I want. But I just wanted to take some time and share some words with you. Talk about, like Dr. Croxton said, how do I get from a blank piece of paper? How do I get from just sitting somewhere or walking somewhere and developing things, and what I want to do. So what I try to do is I try to capture very intimate moments of people's lives. And I do that through, I think for the longest time, I tried to be very observant of people and behavior. Growing up in Philadelphia, I didn't have a car. I didn't get my first car until my first professional job. The reason why we didn't have a car because we had public transportation everywhere you went. 3 blocks down from my house was the bus. If I didn't want the bus, I could walk 5 blocks and get on the trolley. If I didn't want to take the trolley, I could take 3 blocks and get on the train. So anywhere you wanted to go, I would say, Dad, I want to go downtown to the movies. He would just say, go. And I'm talking from, I wouldn't do it today. Like 6th grade, 7th grade, just jumped on the train, you just went downtown, you spent all day downtown, and then you just come home and your parents would just say, hey, what'd you do? And you just relate your day. And you spend a lot of time out among people, if you're on the bus and the subway or the trolley, listening to people, and I just observe people, how they interact with that. That was just always tickled me. I was one to always carry the little spiral notepad. Today I don't have to. Today it's on my phone, it's on my computer. I use the inkpad notepad to take notes and things like that. Although I still have a hard note little book. It's in my car, and then one's in this bag, one's at the house. So they're all over the place. I still do a lot of things longhand. But what I do is I listen, I watch. Like I said, I just like to observe. I watch my kids today, and you know, they're always into their phones. I was saying, oh, look what you just missed, look what you just missed. So now I've gotten past it. I don't tell them anymore what they just missed. That's on them. But for me, I always, that tickled me. I'm writing a series of a detective series, and I know it's going to be a 10-book series. And I just finished book number 6. I'm waiting for my partner in crime, my brother, who is the artist that I work with, to finish the cover work for the book. But I already know certain things I want to have said in book number 10. Because one day my wife and I were downtown Philly. We went to get some cheesecake from her favorite place. And we were driving down the street, windows open, and this guy and this girl, they were arguing because we were going through the bar district. And I don't know what he said because I didn't catch it. But she shouted to him, "You should have said you loved me when you did." And I was like, oh, that's good. And so now I'm trying to scramble in the car and drive and try to find a piece of paper and a pen. I mean, for like 3 or 4 blocks, I'm trying to write down what this lady said. Because I said, oh, that is just something, that's the right sentiment, that whatever's going to happen in book number 10, that's what I think that lady should say. So I carry a lot of things for a long time in my head, or by my bed, or in the basement where I do a lot of work, or it's sitting in somewhere in some document. So that's what I try to do. Why writing is important to me. There's a very professional answer that I can give, and there's a very personal answer that I give. Professionally, you know, it's a freedom to explore. It's a great way to take a concept and twist it, present it to people so that you don't have to hit them over the head right away with something that you really feel. You can bring them into it kind of slowly. You know, you can trick them into it. It's kind of like slipping medicine into a kid's, you know, cereal or oatmeal or whatever, so that they get it slowly, but then they eventually say, hey, I got it. Whatever it is, it's working. I think personally, it's fun. It's liberating. I wasn't, quote unquote, the athlete, you know, among my peers, but I would be out with them. But I always had my little notepad, and you know, if we saw girls and they said, "Hey, guy, write a quick poem for me so I can give it to them." You know, who we thought we were. You know, we thought this was the Mac Daddy move. But I'd pen something down and rip it off and give it to Marty or Victor or whomever I was with, and then they would go. And you know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But that's what my arena was, and that's who I was among my peers. You know, I could go to a party and write. I would go to church, and I was in the choir because I was very social up in the choir loft. Because you know, I was on the junior choir, so that all the kids were there, and I would write on the back of the church bulletin. And I have a couple of those bulletins still sitting in the house with just whatever poem I wrote back in the late 70s or whatever. I used to work in a pharmacy, and long before the CVS, it was just a corner pharmacy. And so after putting the cigarettes up, back then when cigarettes were like $1.50 a pack, that shows you how long ago it was before you smokers. I would take the carton and flip the carton inside out, because on the inside it was just a bright white. And then I would, you know, the store wasn't always crowded, so that's what I would just write on the, I would, you know, tear it off so then I had this long piece, and I would just write on that. In high school, I would, you know, write over people's assignments and things like that. And how do I write, assignment to write a story? Okay, I write one for Roderick over here, and I write one for 9th grade Lizzie over here, and you know, but they're all my works, and I would hear them, and they would get grades, and you know, that's what you did in high school. That was old Germantown High School, so that was the personal side for me. But even today, it's still fun, and when we get to questions, I'll be happy to do that. But style-wise, I try to do a lot of things. You know, fiction is probably my
my favorite creative nonfiction. And if you're not familiar with that genre, it's you know, trying to be as truthful or something in a creative way. If you ever, it's like a blog or something, or if you ever read articles in, you know, magazines like The Atlantic or something like that, and someone just has an essay, you know, for me, that's kind of fun. Of course, poetry. I've done screenwriting, and I've had a screenwriting thing produced. I have a play produced here, play produced by somewhere back in Philly. So I try to do a whole lot, you know, because in truth, I mean, if you're a writer, if someone says, "Can you do this?" the answer is yes. It's just now, how do you want it, you know? And so even when we started the comic book, and I'll tell you more details, but when my brother said, "Can you write a comic book?" at first I was like, "I don't know." And then I, you know, went and got one. I looked at it and I said, "Well, I guess so." And I leaned on my theater background, which gave me the foundation to do the comic book. So enough about that. I'm gonna get to another little piece. This is called Bike Race. That's a little segment of a book called Bike Race. And like I said, I try to capture events in people's lives, real simple, innocuous things that happen, but I think they're important. The tires were shiny black, evidence that he hadn't ridden it anywhere yet. Even the cars held tightly in the spokes by clothespins had not yet begun to bend. I had to admit to myself that the bike was rather funky and I did want to ride it. I'm gonna put some chopper spokes on it and maybe a speedometer. I might get a light for it too. Pop began dreaming out loud. You know they had them bike races on the east side. I should enter and blast all them other lanes off the track. Tot slowly lifted his leg over the seat and lowered himself onto the bike. There wasn't even a squeak when his legs fully rested on the seat. For a quick moment, the sun shined through the trees and landed a spotlight on Tot and his new big shot machine. Even though I was right next to him, it didn't quite shine on me. And that was a little story of two kids and a bike, and dreaming of beating other kids in the street until some other kids from around the way come and cause some particular static. And so, probably like Woody Allen, like Spike Lee, like a lot of writers, a lot of my fiction is all focused in and around the city of Philadelphia. That's where I grew up. Like I said, I was always traveling in and around the city, and so that's my font of information. Now, I was challenged several years ago. Someone said, "You can't write like you're here from Southwest Virginia." I said, "Well, give me a chance. I'll figure something out." And there's a magazine called 16 Blocks in Blacksburg. And so I said, "Okay, they always have poetry in there. And so I'm going to enter a poem and see if it fits." And so I wrote a story about a father and his son, a father and his son, but the voices of the son now, going fishing with his father early morning on some lake, and it was called Hootie Hoo. And the Hootie Hoo was just that's what they kept hearing as they were fishing. And he just treasured that moment. And then when his father passed away, he was older. Now he takes his kids, and his kids have the headphones on, whereas, you know, him and his father, they would catch a fish and eat it. They want McDonald's to eat. But he said, that's okay because that's our experience today, you know. And so the experience today with my kids, it's okay that it's not the experience that I had with my father back then. They published it, and people said, "Oh, this, you know, it's like you're from here." And I said, "See, you can capture it if you think about it, you try to research it enough." And so that's what I try to do. I try to think about, you know, what's important to the audience, and so that's me. This next excerpt is from a story called Holiday Rush, published in the magazine when I was back in San Diego, and the story of a young man, you know, doing some things he shouldn't be doing, But really, the crux of the matter is when he gets home and what happens when people really know what you're doing. He saw his building on the horizon. It was dirt. It was always dirt. No matter how much rain or white stuff fell from the sky, it stayed dirt. If there was anything better for him out there, he couldn't see it, not through all that dirt. He climbed the stairs to the third landing and started down the hall. The door was the only one with a wreath on it. He knew that somebody would steal it by morning. He opened the door. Everything was just as they expected. Nothing changed. His mother was in the kitchen. His brother's on the couch watching the television. And like clockwork, it began. Her words encircled him but never penetrated. It seemed to take less than a minute when it was actually about 15. She had said nothing new, nothing to make him think, nothing to make him feel. He just waited his turn. Yo, Mom, I got you something for Christmas. His mother eyed the package he produced from his pocket. Her hands remained by her side. Where'd you get money to buy a gift? You ain't got no job. She turned back to the sink. There were no dishes in it, but she ran the water. I've been saving it for little jobs here and there. You ain't had no little jobs. Every now and then I come across something legit, nothing big to talk about. Sweeping up here, carrying something there. He turned her around. Her face was like stone. Into her hand, he gently pushed the gift. Damn, can't his son do something nice for his mom? His mother looked deep into his eyes. She saw his soul, but knew there were no words that she could speak. She turned away from him and sat down in her chair. He smiled. You gonna love it. He grabbed some food from the refrigerator and went to his room. As he ate, he could hear her sitting on there. Between his chews, he heard his mother start to cry. Oh, I knew she was. You guys relish from the holiday rush. And like I said, I do a lot of fiction, but I really do love poetry. Poetry, catching the bus, I'm on the subway. Those are real quick things that I can get in between from being at Broad and Erie, trying to get downtown, or being on the H bus. And one time we have a trolley that takes you almost the whole length of the city. So probably imagine if there was a trolley car, I guess here, and you jumped on the trolley. I don't know if I'm exaggerating, but let's say the trolley took you to Charleston, but it stopped every 2 blocks. Okay, so it's just ching ching. You're riding, 2 blocks stop, people get on, get off. And one day I rode the trolley from Fern Rock all the way down to South Philly. Why? I was a kid, and it only cost me 35 cents, so. But it got me through the whole, one segment of the city, all the way down Germantown Avenue, all the way past Broad, past Center City, and next thing I'm coming out the other side. But it was long. It was a whole day adventure because, you had to get back on the trolley and come back. But I got all the coordinator, jumped on the sub, and I was back. But like I said, I like to do looking at people, see what they're doing. And this poem called "On Parting at Plymouth Meeting." I was working outside the city, so I had to catch 2 buses that got me to the Plymouth Meeting Mall. And from there, I caught one more bus. I was working as a youth counselor at this home for boys that this is your last stop. You don't act right, jail's next. And so after I got on that bus, got to the last stop, then I had to walk a mile to the facility. But Plymouth Meeting Mall was the stop for that last bus. And so I was coming back from work, and I was just waiting. And this guy and this girl, they were arguing. But they're too far away from me to hear it, but I could see them. And I was like, this is interesting. And now my bus is coming, and I really want to see, man, what happens? What's going to happen? So here's On Parting at Plymouth Meeting. From the fountain I watched the two, in heated words and unthought anger, stand apart, needling, stabbing, lashing with wordy weaponry, commenced their battle. The sparks, once flames of emotion, shot violently to and fro, stinging, hurting. From the doorway, I watched the two silently battering, silently murdering with laser-focused eyes, scanning for flaws in their newfound enemy. With cynicism and sarcasm, detonated their bombs, implosions in the soul, leaving an abyss, drained of feelings, envy,
From the window I watched the two, stretching the final fibers of yesterdays until they could no longer hold, burst into tears and bewilderment as they stood. The distance separated them geometrically and progressively until they disappeared and we each went our separate ways. So I don't know whatever happened. Maybe they got back together. I hope so, but I had to get home. So that was that. So, good, okay. How's our time, Jamie? Okay, good. All right. The first major novel that I worked on was a book called Living Just a Little. And like I said, I tried to, and what I'll do, I'll just pass it around, flip through, it's just words. But what I tried to do, or I'll say I was inspired by an event that took place. In 1984, I was coming back from, it was Mother's Day. I was an admissions counselor at another school, and I was flying back from some conference or something. And on the plane, this guy says, "Hey, you hear that Philadelphia's on fire?" I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, now I'm off the book. And of course, this is well before a cell phone. I don't even know how the dude knew about it, because I certainly didn't know anything. I mean, that was back in the day where you can go all day and not know anything. And now this guy said Philadelphia's on fire. I'm like, Philadelphia's on fire? So get off the plane. I mean, it's not until I get home, and now I'm looking at TV, and there were 2 city blocks of Philadelphia on fire. So what I do know is that what I know that was building in the West Philadelphia section of Philadelphia, there was a counterculture group called Move. They consider themselves wanting to be back to nature, but they had their megaphones, and their messages on a loop all day, all night. Neighbors complained, the police. This would be the second encounter with the police. The first one took place, years before that, where the police came in, 1 bullet shot, a barrage of bullets shot, a house was shot so much that it fell apart. So the group came back. But now this group is on Osage Avenue. You don't know the street, but they're centered right in the middle of the block. And so on Mother's Day, the plan was by the police is that they were going to go in, and the way the houses in West Philly are set up, they're all compacted. On the other side of that wall is somebody else's house. On the other side of that wall is somebody else's house. And that's just how it goes all the way down. I mean, you can hear your neighbors and stuff like that. So the plan was they're going to drop a small explosive device on top of the house, because they had like a little bunker on top of the house. So that was going to be the distraction. Cops are going to come busting through both sides of the wall. They're going to grab the people and get them out of there. But when they dropped the device on top of the roof on that bunker, it caught fire. And then, it spread. And now this house is on fire, this house is on fire, this house is on fire. Each house was catching on fire. And then, of course, not only did they have the houses here, it's a very small alleyway, probably like 1 car, the width of a car between the next houses. And so those homes caught on fire. And so, like I said, you had a whole big city block now on fire. And so I always remember that, and it just sits on your mind. In fact, just recently, one of the last surviving members of that incident was released from prison. So that's another whole dimension. So when I was working on this book, I was kind of lost. And I hadn't added that component to it. And so I put that down. I read this book called Birmingham. And Birmingham was about a veteran coming back from the service. And he felt very lost back in Birmingham, Alabama. And it wasn't until the bombing of the 16th Street Church and 4 little girls were killed that all of a sudden he felt he had some purpose in his life. And so after I read that, I said, you know what?
maybe that's my problem. I don't have an anchoring event. And so what I decided to do was, I'm going to tell a story about a young man who grew up across the street from the homes that were burning. So his family has experienced all that's going on, but how does this event change this person's life? And it starts out when he's just a little kid. There's gunfire outside. His father got the kids down the basement, and so all those things unfold. And then we followed him, and then some other people through life. And then I said, well, you know what? By the time he's old enough, 9/11 has taken place. I said, you know what? I can anchor it. I can anchor his life with two tragedies, and you can see how does one tragedy change him, but how does another tragedy change him? And so, it's all that happens in between. And of course, it takes great place in the great city of Philadelphia, my favorite. And so that's what I drew from there. And so it gave me a chance to, one, go back and revisit the city, to go and explore different places. And so I have a little excerpt from there. Let me see where we are. Okay, so the gentleman, his name is Ellis. He is, after that event, and so several events that followed, he became very, not withdrawn totally, but just, he wasn't exerting himself anymore. I'm just going to do what I have to do, things that are right, so I don't have conflict. But then he meets this young lady, Sylvania, who is trying to do something better for herself. And she's more on an edge. And she's very skeptical. But somehow they end up going to Atlantic City together. And so she still doesn't trust him. But by this point, the wall's starting to drop. Because even when they got to the hotel, she said, oh, he's slick. He got me all the way to Atlantic City to get me to a hotel. But then she finds out that he got separate rooms for both. So, little by little, she gets to see that he's a pretty decent person. And so here they are on the boardwalk. And what I always try to do is I try to blend my how I like to write. So there's poetry in this. There's music. You won't see the sheet music, but songs that I think that are supposed to take place. But here we are. We're at the beach. If you've never been to the beach, you've never been to Atlantic City, consider this my trip, taking you on a trip. For the next hour, they weaved in and out of people tanning, kite flying, drinking, sleeping, reading, and running to and from the crashing waves. At one point, they stopped, looked out across the ocean, and gazed at the distant horizon. The horizon was in arm's reach. Sylvania looked at Ellis, who had not taken his eyes off the horizon. What did you say? Oh, nothing. Ellis pondered momentarily, then continued. It's from a poem I had to memorize in high school. It's nothing. Sylvania gently tugged at his arm. Go on, let me hear it. I don't know if I still know it. Sylvania didn't say a word, but her eyes encouraged Ellis to go into the deep recesses of his memory. The horizon was in arm's reach. The gray, hazy curtain was drawn close to the ocean blanket. The whitecaps dove in circles as they raced to the steps of the shore, while periodically the sun pierced the staggered clouds, looming over a simmering beach. Inorganic life is tossed and retrieved by semi-violent blades of salt and earth and history, while the entire stage of life remains silent to allow this world to speak its lines that only last for all eternity. Their silence was drowned out by the pulsating crash of waves on the shore. Seagulls hanging like kites on the wind, drifted on ocean winds, brought a smile to Sylvania's face. That was beautiful. Is there more? Yeah, but I can't remember. Ellis turned to face Sylvania. He took her by the hand, gently stroking her arm. Sylvania watched the cloud drift by. You ever wonder what's out there? Ellis smiled as he answered Sylvania's question. No, not really. Well, I know what's out there. Ellis guided Sylvania closer to him. So pretty lady, what's out there?
Sylvania leaned up and kissed Ellis on the lips. Her words were carried on the sea breeze. Whatever we want. So, all that's in there. That book's in the library too, so if you want to get it, just go find it and read it all yourself.
And what is the name of the book, sir?
Okay, so, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What is the name of the book?
A Living Just a Little. Whole cover up, so you can see. And of course,
Excellent.
my brother is, like I said, we have been the artistic team since we've been little kids. And so what I'll do is I'll move through just some other projects, and then I'll turn myself over to you. So give me 1 second to do some technology here. I might have to get out of this for a second. All right, so I just wanted to share a couple of other okay, so we talked about, I was in the introduction, we talked about Brother Man Revelation. Once again, Brother Man Revelation and original Brother Man comics. These are back from the 90s. And you can tell if you open it up, the paper is starting to gray up. But feel free to look at them as they go. Brother Man Revelation is the advanced project from the Brother Man comic books that my brother and I started back in 1989. It all started because my brother, who's an artist, he used to do airbrushing on clothes. I should have brought a piece in, but you know, you can get your name on a T-shirt, get your face on a T-shirt, you know, do the jeans and stuff like that. And they were preparing for this big event in New York called the Black Expo. It was huge at the Jacob Javits Convention Center. And so I was living in Delaware, they were in North Jersey, and he and my other brother. And he said, "Guy, can you come up? Because what we want to do is, can you help us make some advertisements?" Hey, sure. Jump in the car, drive to New Jersey. By the time I get there, he says, "Hey, we got this other total idea. We're not going to do the shirts and stuff. We're going to make a comic book." And I'm like, "Okay." And he said, "Do you know how to make a comic book?" I'm like, I can figure it out. And so he had in his sketchbook a character, but it didn't have the name or anything to it. So long story short, somehow we came up with the name Brother Man while we were there. And then he said, "Okay." I said, "I'll go home and let me craft the story and the script." So I leave there, and like I said, I stopped by some corner store. I bought a comic book. I leave the rest because, I saw comic books when I was a kid. He collected comics. I didn't collect comics. I was always just reading small novels and stuff. But so I looked at the book. I said, "Okay, so here's a format." So I just said, "Okay, here's the format. You gotta have a big square. Then the next page you gotta have like 6 squares. The next page you gotta have 6 squares, a big square." I said, "Fine." So like I said, I leaned on my theater background of script writing. And I said, I guess that's what I have to do. So back then, we didn't have any computer or anything like that. And of course, like I said, I'm in Delaware and he's in North Jersey. But we did have a fax machine. And so I typed everything up on just a regular, actually at first I started out longhand on legal paper. And so I would send it through the fax machine and he would get it, and he would draw pictures and fax it back to me. And that's how we did the very first book. When we got to the second book, I think by that time I finally got a computer. But we didn't have email. So I would type, print it out, and send it to him, either by fax again. And I think by the time we got to book number 3, there came that little fax program. So now I could, it still wasn't email, but I could fax through the computer. So that's how we started that. And somehow we got a news story out about it, and then another news story. Then we got picked up by, it was mentioned on Arsenio, and then boom, it just kind of exploded. We were on TV, they were on TV because they were closer to New York, and then and it's funny because we kept moving around. So I moved to, I was in Delaware, I moved to San Diego, they moved to Texas, you know, next thing you know, I'm moving to Iowa, they're in Atlanta. So we've always worked at a book, on the books, at a distance. We've never been in the same place to work on the book. And now today, you don't have to. You know, I just send it to him via email, or I put it on Google Docs or something like that, and then he posts up, you know, he puts it on there, I'm notified. So it's kind of cool. So it's the story about one man. He's not a quote-unquote superhero. He's just heroic, trying to make a difference in his city, which is a big city. And then when you get to the graphic novel, we brought on Brian McGee, who is a master colorist, a guy who worked on a number of films, worked for Disney, Marvel, all that cool stuff. He brought it to another level of color. So this is part one of a 3-part series. My brother's working on part 2 now. I think it's like 300 something pages. So it's only like the first 100 or so pages put together. So very excited to talk about that. And so there it is. That's the cover of the book. And just a couple of panels. And before this, I had not worked on what they call this is sequential art. You know, one thing leads to the next. And so I had never heard the term. My brother had. You know, he's an artist. But here, it also gave me, once again, a chance to use a lot of prose and poetry to tell a story, and then how it works. I kind of try to see the book in my head and tell my brother, okay, he's getting ready to get on the bus, and he's on the bus, and here's the text that I think you should see on the bus, and then, you know, with his magic and his skill, he really does a great job at bringing it to life. So. Down here, he's getting ready to take on some tough guy, and over here he's done it, and now he's thinking about it. This is a flashback scene, so that's why the coloring has changed. His father's friend is telling young Antonio about his father and how his father was back in the streets, and so. And as you can see, I love the word lame. You know, that's a very Philadelphia word that we used all the time. Anybody didn't like it, okay, but you know, that's okay. And telling the story about the father, you know, how he got his name. He was found in an alley, and he was sitting on a crate that said Leonard's Produce, and so the man who found him named him Leonard. And had to give my last name, so he just named him Crate, Leonard Crate. And then you get to, once again, get to see him grow up. So it's a great opportunity to tell a longer story in a graphical format. The Cold Hard Cases of Duke Denham. And that's what these are. Pass them around. This is the detective series. After a while, you know, I try to, you know, develop new properties for us. And some are winners and some aren't winners, but that's okay. That's how you do it. So in the comic book that you have, the Brother Man comic book, Antonio Valor, who's the main protagonist, works in the office. He's an attorney. He works with Melody Rich, who's also a public attorney, but their boss is Duke Denham. And this tells the story of Duke Denham when he was younger, in his prime, when he was a private detective. And so it was it's a different delivery in the scope of this world of big city. So it's kind of neat, and it's just another way to think about those characters. We have other characters, the Far Out Troopers, which is the cartoon that they watch on TV in this world, and it's just a space adventure. We're also going back in history, even before this. Who were the founders of Big City and their particular adventure. And so that's the done right there. It was mentioned Monster. Now, this is my first time working with a project of material that wasn't mine. Walter Dean Myers is a noted young adult writer from, I asked him when he was in New Jersey. I never got a chance to meet him. My brother did, because my brother had worked with him before. And this is through HarperCollins. And they tapped us to make the graphic novel adaptation of his book, a big award-winning book. And I thought it was pretty neat because I think I was too old to read his books when his books came out. I was the target audience. So when my brother said, "Hey, you want to do this?" I said, "Sure." I never heard of the book. And I don't know if I have any pictures of the cover. Okay. And I said, "Sure." So, I got the book and I read it like 5 or 6 times because I just want to see it. And I said, it's going to be challenging because it's the story of a young man who's on trial as an accessory to murder. And so there's a lot of the story takes place in a courtroom, which means there's long passages of attorneys talking or people trying to explain what happened. So I said, well, you certainly just can't take all that text and wrap it all up in one bubble and say, there you go, folks. And so I had to interpret what's being said and now what do people see and how do they feel. And so obviously they liked it, so I'm very pleased with that. And once again, my brother did the artwork, and I took the man's work and tried my best to do it justice. This next thing is called Keisha. And once again, I'm now trying my hand in science fiction and working with a different artist. And so Keisha is the kinetic evolving intelligence system humanoid apparatus. This was one of our original drawings of what I thought Keisha would be. Here, the robot that thinks she's human. Because of the program. And then this was an artist I was working with, Angel Davis, came up with that as a concept. So it's just, once again, it's fun. It's me exploring how I view technology in our world. And in fact, I think this is where I knew I wanted to get out of this, because this gives me a chance to blow it up a little bit. Just even Brina is this guy's girlfriend, and just her line to him was, just because you program a robot to laugh at your jokes, it doesn't make it funny. So that's, to me, that kind of sets the stage of how we look at technology and things like that. But here, I don't know how big I can get it. But here, in the next couple panels, they just had a disastrous showing of a previous robot. And finally it comes to him what he thinks technology should be. What do people want from technology? And he's trying to explain it to Verena.